Thank you. So I'll call the meeting of Wednesday, February 24th to order. I'm Susan Reardon, the staff hearing officer. First on the agenda under preliminary matters is requests for continuances, postponements, withdrawals, or addition of X agenda items. And I've had no request for any continuances or withdrawals, so we'll hear the items in the order that they appear on the agenda. The next item is announcements and appeals, and there are two projects listed under this section. There are requests for a coastal development permit for accessory dwelling units. The first one's on a property located at 114 La Marina, and the second one is a property located at 210 Los Andes. And I've read the staff report, done the site visit, and I agree with staff's analysis in the staff report that the projects are consistent with the zoning ordinance as well as our local coastal land use plan. The only comment I have is regarding 114 La Marina Drive. It is proposing a corrugated metal roof. And just kind of more of an FYI, per the zoning ordinance, shiny roofing and siding materials not allowed. So that will be looked at during plan check review. But it's just a side note. But in regards to the actual requested coastal development permits, they are consistent with our LCP, like I said. In regards to public comment, I have not received any public comment, written public comment on either of the projects, and state law prohibits us from taking or having a public hearing regarding the coastal development permit. So more purpose of these two items is to announce my decision. And I can find these projects consistent with the Coastal Act and make the findings as outlined in the staff report. Both of the projects have proposed conditions of approval attached to the staff report, and my approval of the coastal development permits are subject to those conditions that are outlined in the staff report. Both of the projects are located in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone, so my action on these items is final. So we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, and it's comments from members of the public pertaining to items not on today's agenda. And if you would like to provide comments, general comments to the staff hearing officer on items not on the agenda, you can raise your hand. And to do that, you click on the hand button, which is indicated with the green arrow that indicates up, and then on the screen before you, you can see the red arrow points to the button I'm talking about. And if I see your hand raised, I will call on you and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. So if you'd like to provide general comments, raise your hand now. I see no one, so we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing, and we'll move to the first item on the agenda, which is an application of Andrew Roatman, 595 Sycamore Vista Road. Okay, and I see Andy Roatman is in attendance, so Will, if you want to promote him, but first we'll get the staff presentation and then followed by Mr. Roatman. So anytime you're ready, staff.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Reardon. Good morning. I'm Robert Dostalak, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department. And the project before you today is for a front yard modification and associated with a small addition, the new entryway, and a first floor plan reconfiguration. And the project is located at 595 Sycamore Vista Road. And Will, if Mr. Russell, if you could zoom in on the cover sheet just for a moment. There's a general vicinity plan, vicinity map. And actually you can scoot to sheet A1, which is number 6 in the PDF. That's the site plan. There we go. And so the project site is located in the Ciolito neighborhood of the city at the intersection of Sycamore Canyon Road and Sycamore Vista Road. And the site is currently developed with an approximately 2,286 square foot single unit residence, a 465 square foot detached garage, and an 80 square foot storage shed. A previous front setback modification was approved by the staff hearing officer in 2009 to reconstruct the residence and garage that were destroyed by the Tea Fire. And these are the same improvements that we see on the ground today. And if you could zoom in, please, a little more on the site plan, on the octagon footprint, please. Yes, thank you. And this shows the proposed improvements. The project involves an approximately 37 and some change square foot addition to the existing residence. This would be accomplished by enclosing the existing entryway. And the project also includes relocating the front entry stairs just around the side and relocating the laundry facilities to the garage, along with an interior remodel. And a front yard modification is proposed to allow for the creation of new floor area and improvements within the front setback. And that's the discretionary application that we're looking at today. The project site is zoned RSA1 under Title 30 of the Municipal Code. The general plan land use designation is low density residential. And the properties surrounding the project site are zoned for and developed with residential improvements. And just to note that the eastern property boundary coincides with the city limit, so it's county jurisdiction beyond to the east. And for general zoning consistency, the project would adhere to applicable building height, open yard, and parking standards. And then getting into the modification a little bit, and Mr. Russell, if you could scroll to sheet A2, it's PDF sheet number 7. There we go. And this shows an elevation, and also this is the proposed elevation and the proposed first floor plan, which is where the changes would occur. The existing house consists of 3 bedrooms on the second floor and living space on the first floor. So there are no bedrooms on the first floor as it's currently configured. And per the applicant letter, the owner desires a modest bedroom on the first floor. The proposed design would relocate the laundry room appliance to the garage, and the 20-foot clearance would be maintained within the garage, and it would convert the existing covered entrance landing into interior space. The entry door and staircase would be relocated immediately to the southeast, as you can see in the elevation view. And staff is supportive of the front setback modification request. The lot is roughly triangular in shape. And Mr. Russell, if you could go back to the site plan, actually. Thank you. And as you can see, the lot is roughly triangular in shape and is significantly constrained by a combination of steep topography, road easements, and 2 35-foot front setbacks. 1 road easement for Sycamore Canyon Road and 1 road easement for Sycamore Vista Road. And due to the configuration of the site, the required setbacks occupy approximately 41% of the property. And overall, approximately 78.3% is occupied by roadway easements and setbacks. And the entire garage and the southwestern half of the residence are sited within the Sycamore Road setback, thereby triggering the need for a front setback modification for even minor improvements and alterations. And I did just want to note a quick correction here. In the staff report, it notes that it's the southwestern half that is within the Sycamore Vista Road setback, but it's actually the southeastern half. And relating to purpose and intent, setbacks are established to create physical separation between improvements on neighboring parcels, light penetration, airflow, and fire protection. The nearest residential building footprint is over 100 feet to the southwest at 585 Sycamore Vista Road. The proposed improvements are very minor, and although the enclosure of the existing entryway to the residence would introduce additional floor area into the Sycamore Vista Road setback, the relocated stairway would not encourage any further into the setback than the existing building footprint already does for the residents. Additionally, the area of work would not be visible to pedestrians, motorists, or bicyclists from Sycamore Canyon Road due to the steep site topography. And although a private roadway, the visibility of the project from Sycamore Vista Road would also be limited due to topography and existing screened vegetation. And even if the project were highly visible from a public vantage point, the perceived mass and bulk of the front entry enclosure would be negligible because it would be hidden beneath the overhanging second story. And the relocation of the existing stairway to the southeast would be visually comparable to the existing stairway to the front entrance of the residence. And lastly, the improvement is appropriate. It would be appropriate because it adds very modest amount of new floor area and would improve the functionality and livability of the residence. And to touch on environmental review, the project site is located in an archaeologically sensitive zone, namely the prehistoric watercourse buffer. However, the entire site was surveyed in 2007 for a slope stabilization project and was not considered to have the potential to impact archaeological resources. Therefore, the standard archaeological resources contractor notification condition is recommended. Otherwise, the scope of the entire project can be found categorically exempt from further environmental review under sections 15303 and 15305 of the California Environmental Quality Act. And for the conceptual level design review, it did go to design review on November 23rd, 2020. And as noted in the staff report, the project did receive positive comments from the Single Family Design Board. And to wrap up with the ability to make the findings for the front yard modification, staff recommends that the staff hearing officer approve the project. And that concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Rootman, I could unmute you and then you can provide additional comments if you want. Okay, you're unmuted. You can turn on your webcam.
Webcam.
It's a little button underneath your microphone. Icon.
Okay. Here we go.
Yes, there we go. We see you.
Based on the positive report and the positive feedback from Single Family Design Board, I don't need to make any additional presentation. I am just here to answer any questions you may or may not have.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't have any questions at this time, so I'll open the public hearing portion of the agenda. And Will, if you can go to the slide. If you are attending this meeting and you would like to address the staff hearing officer on 595 Sycamore Vista Road, you can do so by using the raise your hand button, which is in the control panel. And the red arrow on the screen is pointing to it. And if you do that, I can see that you raised your hand and I'll call on you and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. So if you'd like to address the staff hearing officer on this item, go ahead and raise your hand. I don't see any. I'll give a little more time. I'd like to ask staff, have we received any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Ms. Reardon. We have not received any written public comment for this item. Thank you.
Well, I still don't see any hands raised, so I will close the public comment portion and it'll go back to me. So I've reviewed the staff report and visited the site and remember this project from when it came before me previously. And as mentioned in the staff report, this is truly a minor project. It's infilling existing overhang area. Although it does result in an increase in floor area, it does not significantly alter the openness or the view from the public road, and it is an appropriate improvement and consistent with the purposes and intent of our zoning ordinance. So with that, I can make the findings outlined in the staff report. And Mr. Rootman, there's just the one condition on the project that was explained, and you've read that and understand it? It's regarding the unanticipated archaeological resource notification. It's pretty standard.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, we're basically not even gonna be digging down. I mean, everything is there. And where the new entry is the area that was after the last fire destroyed the total building. That whole area was already checked because we had to tear out the existing foundation system and put in new foundation down to bedrock and grade beams. So that whole area has already been, I mean, we're basically going to be done at where the area was already disturbed during the 2009 reconstruction.
Okay, well, great. All right, so with that, I'll make the findings as outlined in the staff report and approve your project subject to that condition of approval. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And the Planning Commission also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt that this requires additional review before the Planning Commission, they'd call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if either of those would happen, Mr. Wallace would contact you. Okay?
Sounds great.
Right. All right. So we'll go to the next item on the agenda, and that is 2 South Quarantina. Hi, Ms. Protestant, anytime you're ready.
The project I'm presenting today is located at 2 South Quarantina Street. Mr. Russell, if you could show the aerial photo when you have the chance. So this is the aerial photo of the site. The project site is in the middle of the slide, and it's just below the 101 freeway on the corner of 500 and Quarantina Streets, and it's a 1.26 acre lot. The next slide, Mr. Russell, would be the zoning map. This slide shows the gray area, which is the location of the site. This is the zoning map, and it shows that the site is in the M1 zone. This is a light manufacturing zone. The site also has a coastal overlay zone, as it's in the city's coastal jurisdiction. And Mr. Russell, the next slide would be the general plan map. The blue area is the location of the project site. It's in the coastal land use plan. It has a general land use plan designation of general industrial. And that whole blue area is considered general industrial. And so the next slide would be the site plan, please. The proposed project is to construct a single-story, 3,100 square foot, 37-foot tall warehouse building with a receiving and storage area, a break room, and restrooms. The project would also include surface area for storage and staging of equipment and vehicles, trash enclosures, bike parking, and 6 vehicle parking spots. And there will also be an approximately 6 to 8 foot tall wall surrounding the property. The project operations would consist of storage areas for equipment and vehicles, and the warehouse building would house supplies and materials such as toilet paper and paper towels. Equipment to be stored on the site will include storage boxes, roll-off boxes, portable restrooms, and restroom trailers. The site would be screened, as I previously mentioned, by a 6-foot prefab solid fence along the street frontage, as well as street trees, new sidewalks and parkways consistent with the city's pedestrian management plan. To provide a little bit of background on the project site, since the 1960s, there has been a mix of buildings and different types of uses that have taken place on the site. And there have been several enforcement cases that have occurred on the site over the years, and all of those cases have been abated at this time. In 2018, a demolition permit was issued to remove all of the unpermitted structures on the property, And with with the issuance of that permit, 19 mature trees were also removed from the site. These trees were removed legally, and they were not on an approved landscape plan. And the city bases their analysis on the existing conditions of the site as the site exists today. And as I said, those trees were not in any front yard or in the public right of way. The previous owner removed the several trees, approximately 19 mature yucca trees and eucalyptus trees, and the current proposal includes the removal of 3 additional trees in the front setback to accommodate the new sidewalk. As part of this proposal, the applicant would install the trees as shown on the landscape plan. The city also conducted an analysis of the project, how it complies with the city's local coastal plan and the California Coastal Act. Land use policy 3.1-29 states that parking standards in the zoning ordinance are designed to ensure sufficient off-street parking is provided for new development and substantial redevelopment to avoid adverse impacts to the public access to the shoreline and the coastal region areas. This project is providing the required vehicle and bicycle parking on the site and can be found consistent with this policy. Land use policy 4.2-22 is referring to water quality, and it states that all development shall be planned, sited, and designed to protect the water quality and hydrology of coastal waters in accordance with the requirements of the city's stormwater management plan. This project will be required to comply with Tier 3 of that program, and therefore it can be found consistent with that policy of the LUP. With regards to visual quality, land use plan policy 4.3-2 states that all development shall, where feasible, restore and enhance visual quality in visually degraded areas. Design review is required by the ABR, and the policies state that development shall be sited and designed to avoid impacts to scenic resources and public scenic views. Development shall not obstruct public corridors or scenic resources, including those of the ocean as viewed from the shoreline, and of the upper foothills and mountains viewed respectively from the beach and lower elevations of the city. This project would essentially clean up a long neglected site in this area of the city. There are no views of the ocean from the project site, nor would the new structure block any public views of the ocean. The ABR reviewed the project and was supportive of the overall design, stating that the project was consistent with the surrounding neighborhood. The project will, as I said, clean up a degraded site and will enhance the neighborhood with new landscaping and sidewalks. And the new building will not obstruct important public views or scenic resources. Therefore, the project can be found consistent with this policy of the LUP. Also, regarding hazards, the land use plan states that projects shall avoid high flood hazards or minimize flood-related risks. And this project is required to comply with state FEMA requirements as well as the city's flood requirements. So it can be found consistent with that policy. The staff conducted also an environmental review and found that the project can be exempt from further environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Act, Section 15332, which is the infill exemption. It qualifies for this exemption because the project use as a storage yard and warehouse is consistent with the coastal land use plan designation of general industrial, as I showed you on the map earlier, and is also consistent with the zoning designation of light manufacturing. The proposed development occurs on a lot that is less than 5 acres. The project site has no value as habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. The approval of the project will not result in significant effects related to traffic, noise, or air quality or water quality. And also the site can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services. So for those reasons, staff determined that the project can be exempt from further environmental analysis. Now, with regards to hazardous materials, the project site did undergo some tank removals in 2019. These tanks were successfully removed from the site. There was evidence found of railroad ties on the site, and due to the sunsetting of a previous exemption, railroad ties are now considered a California hazardous waste as of January 1st, 2021. So this is a new issue for hazardous materials. So it was determined that based upon the potential for remnants of railroad spurs or lines on the parcel and other unknown uses in the past, there may exist other concerns that Santa Barbara County Environmental Health would be concerned with. So the project has been conditioned to, there won't be any construction on the project until the site has been completely cleaned up and met the standards of the Santa Barbara County Environmental Health Department. And that's been added as a condition of approval to the project. The project also went to ABR on 2 occasions. The first time was on December 16th, 2019. And the ABR made several requests regarding adding landscaping and large trees on the north and west property lines, which face the street. And they also requested a well-articulated 6 to 8 foot wall to be constructed around the perimeter. They stated that the massing of the new building was acceptable, but they also requested the applicant further study the exterior appearance, adding either facades that are more in keeping with Spanish style and focus on simple construction. When the project returned to the ABR on June 1st, 2020, the applicant responded to the ABR's request by adding more landscaping and the addition of a prefabricated fence and wall system around the site to screen operations. The board was supportive of the project and stated that the style of the building was acceptable based on the eclectic nature of the surrounding area. The ABR stated that the compatibility analysis criteria were met and forwarded the project to the staff hearing officer for review of the coastal development permit. That concludes staff's presentation for today, and we recommend that staff hearing officer approve the project, making the findings as described in the staff report in section 9 and subject to the conditions of approval in Exhibit A. I also wanted to note that the date that action is required is a typographical error on page 2, and that date should be changed to March 28th, 2021, as far as the requirement for the city to take action on the project. And I believe we have the applicant here to make a presentation also, Mr. John Kuykendall.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Marsden. Mr. Kuykendall.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Let me see. Yes, I can hear you. Do you have a camera?
Okay. I'm looking for it. Where is it?
It's a
Share my-
button underneath your
Yep,
mic.
there it goes. There we go.
Right. Great, thanks. Now, is there any other members of your applicant team that might want to present that are
Yes.
attending hearing? Who would that be?
It'll be Pablo Romero, 4, and Michael Hamilton. We'll just go the plans fairly briefly.
Okay, so did you get that, Will? Did you promote them so they could be? Okay, I see Pablo and Mike Hamilton. Okay, all right. So anytime you're ready, Mr. Kuykendall.
Sure. John Kuykendall, agent for the applicant. I was going to go into a little more overview of the project, but Kelly did such a fantastic job that I think I will just introduce the design team that'll go over the plans. We have today Pablo Romero with RJC Architects, so the actual plans focus mainly on the design. Followed by Chris DeFore, who's with our RRM Design Group, who'll go over the landscape plans, and then he'll be followed by Michael Hamilton, who's also with RRM Design Group, just to briefly go over the civil plans. And then we also have today, as part of our project team, available for any questions, Bob Cashier with Track Environmental Group, and then Derek Carlson with Marburg Industries. So with that, I'll turn it over to Pablo to run through the architectural plans. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Anytime you're ready, Mr. Romero.
Thank you, Ms. Riordan. Good morning, Pablo Romero, RJC Inc. Can we switch to sheet A 0.02? That's sheet 9 on the PDF set. Thank you. And if we could please zoom in a little bit. So as described, this project is set up on the corner of 500 and Quarantina Street. And the building is set along the eastern portion of the building. We are providing 2 access to the premises, one that matches Kimball Street center line, and then the other one along 500 Street. Let it be said that we are reducing from existing 6 driveways to only 2 driveways to the premises. And as stated, we have 2 staging areas along the parking area, and the building, which is again set back on the east corner of the building. The entire perimeter is fenced. All the frontage is provided with this prefabricated concrete fencing, and that's basically, we have some parking stalls set along the front of the building. Can we shift to the next sheet, please? Thanks. So this is the floor plan of the facility. We do have, the vast majority of the building is comprised of a large receiving area. We have a header coiling door, and a couple of pedestrian entrances to the facility. This is basically the storage area, the receiving area. And we also add restrooms, male, female, and a unisex, fully accessible restroom as well. We're also providing a break room, a break area, and that's basically, it's a very straightforward building. The building, as you can see, also it's although there are no setbacks for this site, we have brought the building back a little bit to provide some kind of a frontage with landscaping area, which Chris will talk in further detail in a few minutes. Now, can we switch to sheet 8.2.01? That's 2 sheets down. Thank you. So these are the site elevations on the top. You can see the northeast site elevation. This is the elevation along Quarantina, and this is shown without any landscaping, just to show the building presents itself, by itself. But of course, there will be landscape, and we have some perspective to show the feeling of the site once everything is blended together. But basically, as I said, the building is set along the eastern part of the building of the site, and then we have the entrance to the facility, which is matching Kimball Street, and then the rest is all this prefab fencing. These colors were presented to the ABR, and they've been accepted to be in the color palette agreeable to the zone. The elevation number 3, that would be the northeast side elevation. That's the one that would be facing 500 Street. So you see the building is actually back there at the end of the property, but still it's going to be visible from the street. this is the bottom elevation is more of an internal. I'm sorry, it's the detail of the front elevation northeast along. I'm sorry, where the next sheet, right? Okay, sorry. Yeah, this is more of an internal elevation, that one at the bottom. Can we scroll down a little bit? That is the building by itself along Quarantina. And it's basically a CMU wall base along the perimeter, and then metal panel siding and metal panel roofing. Can we go to the next sheet, please? These are the other three building elevations. So it's, as you can see, it's a utilitarian building, very industrial, straightforward building, but still, treated with good taste. This was, as mentioned, approved by the ABR. Can we move to the next slide, please? We have a few perspective drawings. This is number one would be, the access along 500 Street. And let it be said that all of the comments from the ABR have been picked up, such as doing picket fencing, iron rod fencing rather, and the colors and the landscaping treatment of the walls as well. So all of those comments have been picked up here in this most recent presentation. The other three buildings, the other three perspectives are, internal views of the building from within the property. Can we switch to the next slide, please? Here we see the corner of 500 and Quarantina. Actually, these are shown, the landscaping is shown as mature, and well, this is the way it's going to be seen once this acquire maturity. Slide 2, picture 2 is along Quarantina, the view along Quarantina, and number 3 is as we reach the entry point to along Quarantina Street. View number 4 is a little further, actually beyond the property. This is seen from the adjoining property. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. And finally, well, this is how we approach the building, the pedestrian access to the building, and we also created an analysis of of views because of comments that were given to us during the initial ABR presentation. We wanted to analyze how the building, the site in general, would be perceived along the freeway, and so we modeled the landscaping and the building itself along the site, and managed that in the most reasonable heights that would be perceived during a travel on the 101. And you can see on slide 3 that really the all that we're going to be able to see is going to be the treetops, and that would be for really a limited time, right? That's all that you're going to be able to see for under 1 second, and if you turn on the right moment. So it's really, there's really no impact along the freeway views for that this building might present. And this concludes my presentation. I'll switch it over now to Chris.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Pablo. If we could switch over to the landscape plan, that's the last sheet, I believe, in the package. Thank you. So the project provides street trees at approximately about a 35-foot spacing along Quarantina and 500 Street per the city standard street tree list. As Pablo said, the project benefits because we were able to close a couple of the driveways. That gives you a couple more street trees out of the mix. Quarantina Street has the 25 to 35 foot tall Australian native peppermint tree, whereas the 500 Street has the larger 35 to 40 foot tree, also an Australian native flame tree. It's known for its red flame flowers. It's pretty pretty. The new sidewalk and parkway layout provides understory plantings for the parkway plantings. As part of this understory, we're including bioswale treatment plantings. This basically treats all of the watershed onto the public sidewalk itself. When Mike, the engineer, gets on board, he can talk a little bit more about the water treatment. All of the proposed plant material is drought tolerant. Plant material was selected for its form, low water use, and low maintenance requirements. Per the comments, we've provided an additional skyline tree at the striped area in the middle. That was kind of an ABR thing. That's been resolved. Along the sidewalk, we are proposing vine pockets to break up the vertical plane of the perimeter walls and add interest along the public right-of-way. And then lastly, there are some existing street trees that will need to be removed as part of the project. The only reason for the removal is just that they're in conflict with the proposed sidewalk improvements. Otherwise, I think we would have been game to protect them otherwise, but like we can't because of their conflict with the sidewalk. And I think we're going to be able to get a more cohesive streetscape with the proposed layout as it is. That's it.
Okay, great, thank you. So you mentioned one more person.
Yeah, I'm not
Mike.
sure if Mike is on. If Mike is not on,
I see him. Mike, you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you want to provide a little more information. Mr. Hamilton. Looks like you're self-muted. Okay, well, I'll assume he doesn't want to present anything more.
I can just speak to the fact that all the internal water is treated in a series of underground storage tanks. You can see it in the landscape plan, kind of in the lower quadrant, that square grid that's going on there. That treats all of the internal water flow for the site. As mentioned before, there's a reduction in driveway aprons. So I forget John can clarify me on this, but I think we're now down to 2. I think we were at 5. Anyway, John, you can chime in on that one. And then lastly, all the offsite, like I said, all the offsite drainage is going to be treated as part of the bioswales and the parkways.
Sorry, this is Mike. I've my unmute was. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I see you too.
Sorry, it was on a different screen, hiding. But I think Chris covered it just from an engineering perspective. We have stormwater management chambers on site to treat and manage the runoff on site. And as Chris and Pablo had mentioned, we have offsite improvements that include sidewalk and sporadic bioretention to treat runoff from the roadways, 500 and Quarantina Street.
Okay, and also, you know, it is in the flood zone. The bottom portion of the building's proposed to be the cinder block. Is that for part of the flood proofing too, or just is it going to be raised? The staff report talks about being raised above the base.
The building
flood.
finished floor will be raised above the flood hazard, the BFE.
Okay. All right.
As for the cinder block, that would question for Pablo, I guess.
It's more of a protection. As it's going to be a receiving area, we want the bottom part of the building to be, solid against all that kind of heavy traffic.
Okay. All right. I do have some questions, but I think first I'm going to open the public hearing so we can hear that and see if I get additional questions. So if the panelists would like to turn off their mics and cameras. And so some of you have been listening since the beginning of the hearing, but if you would like to address the staff hearing officer on this project to South Quarantina Street, you can do so by clicking on the raise your hand icon, and it's indicated by the red arrow there on the screen. If I see your hand raised, I will call on you and unmute you, and then you have 2 minutes to speak. And you can't donate your time to someone else to increase the time. So if you want to speak, I see Mr. I see Jonathan Dolev, followed by Guy Dolev. So Jonathan, I will unmute you, and you will have 2 minutes to provide your comments. So go
thanks.
ahead.
Yeah, I thought you brought up a good point about the runoff. The property is sitting in a coastal zone. We can see it, from our offices. We're across the street. There's other buildings that are across the street, and it's mainly a porta potty storage and a storage for human waste. I think that you brought up a good point that a wall is needed, just like the city has installed on, I think it's Ciananali Street, that if there is any potential spillage and rain or any mixing of the material, that it doesn't contact the city soil, that it doesn't flow into the streets, that it doesn't flow into the water as well if an area gets flooded. I think that it's important to look at the percentage of landscape that's internal, not just relying on the street landscape. The percentage of parking as well. There's a huge community impact of this building going in, where we're expanding the Marburg operation beyond what the services are needed for the city. And then we're not expanding the parking beyond 5 spaces, which means that Marburg is going to be bringing in more and more employees, more trucks, more drivers, more 3 drivers per truck. And then we're going to struggle more and more for parking. The curb appeal is really important. We were in the ABR meeting. We wanted to see a Santa Barbara stucco masonry wall, just like the city puts up for their facilities. We have people come and interview at the building. They're scared. They're scared of the homeless. They're scared of people whistling at them as they walk to our building. They're scared to walk back at night. There's not enough lighting on the street. And then lastly, I just wanted to address the fact that, well, there used to be these beautiful eucalyptus trees, mature eucalyptus trees, as large as you have at the Santa Barbara Bowl. And Marburg killed them all without permits. And we want that kind of landscaping back.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll go, so you can, yeah, there we go. Okay, and then we'll go to Guy Dolev. I will unmute you. Okay, and you have 2 minutes to address the staff hearing officer. Guy?
Hi, can you hear me? Have we started?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, great. So, this is well beyond the needs of the city. This is just an operation that is now trying to expand 200% here. This is the coastal zone. If you want to know what this is going to look like, don't look at those conceptual images. Go look at what it already is, because they're just expanding that. ABR had passed this through only because Marburg had taken advantage of the ensuing protests from the death of George Floyd in June to get their project through. When on top of the pandemic, when people are working from home and rather than working at their big table where they've got the plans in front of them, they absolutely tore apart this plan the first time in December 2019. And as far as the trees that, they cut down a ton of trees, that was not legal. They granted that permit retroactively. That called for the resignation or termination of Matthew Azelimaz from city planning. And their plan to replant some trees, it cannot be, Marburg does everything so cheap. For such a wealthy family and company, they need to drop in with their buddy's company, Lash Construction, some giant trees to replace what's now missing there. I sent you images in your email that you should have checked that show what this was like before and what it's like now. They have to put in some big trees. Lash can do that. They can excavate, they can crane them in there. It has to be an 8-foot wall. This really has to get kicked back to ABR. They've made some improvements. They don't need to cut down the additional trees. ABR had said just run a curve with the sidewalk around it. It's like everything they do, they just need to be taught how to do properly.
Okay, great, thank you. I would like to clear up two things about your comments. One, the project does need to go back to ABR, the Architectural Board of Review. It was there for comments, so it hasn't received any approvals from the Architectural Board of Review. So it will be returning later on, depending on the outcome of the hearing. Then the other comment is in regards to the staff person for the ABR, previous staff person. He was not fired from the city. He chose to leave city employment. So it was not due to any disciplinary action. It was on his own choice. So I just would like to clear that up, that I don't want that misperception out there regarding the previous staff person. So with that, there's more people with hands raised. Crystal Barros, I will unmute you. And you are self-muted. You can unmute yourself.
Good morning.
morning.
Thank you for your presentation. I just had a couple of questions. One of the comments toward the very end, and I apologize I didn't get the speaker, but he referred to the heavy traffic that would be going in and out of there. And I'm wondering if with the reduction in driveways to 2 now, does that mean these trucks are going to be lined up on the street waiting to get in and out? That's my first comment. And regarding Mr. Jonathan Duloff's comment about needing more street lighting, I think that being a longtime resident of the Lower East Side here, I think we need more lighting in that area also. So I back that up. That's all I have to say at this time. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So okay, there's Melissa Genzel. I've unmuted you. You're self-muted. If you would like to state your name for the record or provide additional public comment.
Sure, thank you. My name is Melissa Gensel, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I work across the street from the Marburg facility that exists already, and I've attended one of these meetings before, and I'd like to reiterate that Marburg has the opportunity to really do things the right way, considering how long that they've been in the community, how many, I know they do a lot of good community work and they help out nonprofits. But as far as their own business goes, I think that they are shying away from the opportunity to do things in a proper way. It is impossible to park here. If you come anytime past 8 o'clock in the morning, you have to park blocks and blocks away. This directly affects me because I've had several uncomfortable encounters walking, just trying to get to my job. The last Friday night, I had to park blocks away and was confronted in the dark by 3 homeless men. I had nowhere to go, and it was very poorly lit, and I was quite fearful. And I couldn't get back to my office either because it was far away and the door was locked. So I really hope that Marburg does step up their game a little bit and do a better job of paying closer attention to this facility that they're trying to pass. I think we need more lighting, and trees would be great, but we really need to make it safe right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you've already had a chance to speak, if you could click the raise your hand button again, so your hands will go down. So it'll be easier for me to see who still needs to speak. I see Evan Stanfield. I have unmuted you. There we go. You're unmuted. Go ahead and prevent.
Can you hear? Okay, so I'm Evan Stanfield. I also work across the street, and I'm standing here right now. And I mean, the pictures are so far from what it actually looks like. I mean, the fencing they have right now is a chain link fence with some green stuff in the middle of it. To reiterate the parking piece, the amount of trucks and cars that are here, I mean, it is literally insane. I'm looking at it right now. There's not a single place to park on either side of the street, as far down as you can see. Additionally, to reiterate what some of what was just said, I know obviously it is not Marburg's fault that the homeless people are here. However, by adding or continuing to add what they're adding, it is just reiterating the same area. They mentioned in the presentation that it looks eclectic down here. Eclectic is not the correct word at all. Eclectic just means that it doesn't look like anything. There is a homeless shelter down the street. I am all for helping people. I'm all for that. But putting more of what is already here is not going to do anything to fix the actual problem that is going on. Additionally, we are a city that is dependent on tourism, and you have one of the nicer hotels literally bordering that property. We have the Funk Zone that is slowly expanding in from other directions in Lower Milpas, which is starting to get more and more popular. Adding more of this sort of stuff here is really just reinforcing everything that's already happened and is not in any way, shape, or form going to progress this area forward into anything other than just a giant Marburg dump, essentially. So that's all I got.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Natalia Giovanni. I'm sorry if I messed up your name. I've unmuted you. If you'd like to say your name correctly, that's fine, and provide additional comments.
Well, good morning. My name is Natalia Gavoni.
Oh, that's close.
You were. Good morning. I would like to echo what the previous speakers have mentioned here. First and foremost, Marburg has done a piss poor job of outreach to the community. I don't believe they have spoken to the surrounding businesses who are impacted by this project day in and day out. Contrary to what staff stated this morning, this area is highly impacted with noise, traffic, cars, just basically a nuisance. And this project that Marburg wants to bring there will just add to this. In addition, why is Marburg being allowed to bring in barrels, urine from Alaska. Something's wrong with this picture. That area already looks like a dump. I mean, what are we going to become here? A public urinal for Alaska? Let Alaska deal with it. They shouldn't be transporting it into our city, impacting that business community over there. And lastly, I don't think this project should be exempt from an environmental review. Just because it's classified as a storage unit, they're exempting it? A project of this size, of this magnitude, in any other district in Santa Barbara would be required to have this environmental review. And Marburg should not be exempt from that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next is Yuri Ola. Okay, yeah, go ahead, you're unmuted.
Okay, I think that the picture of the area here is not known to the city or not known to most people in town. This is basically a quarry, and there is heavy machines that every day there is another D9 coming here and tearing up the streets, tearing up concrete, making noise that it's unhuman. All this job here that they're doing need to go out away between two mountains that nobody hears them. And here they are in an area, then when you see a tourist getting here by mistake, he's just running for his life. Now, the reason that he's running for his life, because the area looks so neglected, and then that attracts the homelessness. Then when that attracts the homeless, then all people defecating in the street, it's all messy, it's all ugly, it's all dangerous. And I am sure that the staff, like Kelly, that mentioned that there is everything is paths, there's no animals here. How would you have any animals here? There is concrete from if you have, they own like 2 acres here, is that it's all concrete. And nobody's asking them to do 20% landscape. This city is notorious for any person that comes and put a block not in the right way to tell him, but these people here are taking raw land and doing with it whatever they want. Somebody has to stop them and move them away from here. This is not okay for a beach zone. This is not okay. You know, the collection of crows that are here is incredible.
Okay, great, thank you. I don't see any other hands raised. If I will give you just a little bit to raise your hands if you are in attendance and you would like to provide comments regarding this project. I would like to note that I did receive 2 emails from Mr. Dolev, and I read both of them. So I received those 2. Mary or Kelly, have we received any more since the hearing started?
Thank you, Ms. Reardon. We have not received any additional written correspondence for this item. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, I don't see any more raised hands, so I will close the public hearing. And I will ask, I'll ask some questions. I can start with some of the questions that were raised with the public comment. If the applicant, John Kuykendall, Mr. Kuykendall, if you'd like to turn on your camera, then I can talk to you, and then the rest of the applicant team, that's fine too, if they want to. We'll pretend we're still in the hearing room. Kelly, or Ms. Broderson, you can keep yours on too, please. If there's not enough room, we'll just, we'll have to, yeah. Okay, so in regards to the use that's going to be going on this site, can you kind of explain a little bit more on what's going to occur, the activity. There's some staging areas, and I'm not sure what's the difference between staging and storage. I know porta potties will be on there and some trucks, but can you kind of give a little bit more information regarding the proposed use of the site and potential for spillage? There's talking about spillage and then also another comment was regarding backing up on the streets of the trash trucks. So if you can just kind of explain a little more. I think you're muted, or let me unmute you. You're self-muted. There we go. Okay.
I may have Eric Carlson also speak to this as well, but understanding I'm not going to store at the site. These are just for the equipment. Anything that is ever used, they pump it with their trucks and it's taken to a different site altogether. So there won't be any of that on this property, any pumping of urine or any of that, or storage of urine. So it's generally equipment that they use as part of their operations. There'll also be some vehicle stage, because part of this is to kind of spread out their operations from the adjacent site. As you can see from that one aerial, they're pretty packed, almost touching the vehicles. So from an operational standpoint, it's difficult. This allows them to kind of have a better operation to put some trucks on this site of those CNG trucks. But at the same time, they'll be able to store some of the porta potties, other, say, temporary event type restroom facilities and other equipment they use. As far as queuing on the street, we don't anticipate any of that because this is going to be utilized as a way to kind of the existing operation in the area. This is not going to result in much more employees. It's the same operation, just now it's going to have a little better operational flow within the properties because of the tightness on the other ones. So the trucks going in, that's why we reduced it 6 driveways to 2. So right there, that's going to add parking on the street. It's a positive, but it's going to be, we don't anticipate trucks queuing on the street because there is ample room with the trail on the property to handle trucks, but they typically come in and then they just back into their place or they pull into the place. So as far as the operation, it is basically storage, no that I'm aware of. I'm trying to remember what else you wanted me to address right there as far as that.
I think that is, what about cleaning of the porta potties? Where are they cleaned when they're returned? Is that on another site?
That's my understanding. Derek, are you available to respond to that? See if Derek.
Mr. Kuykendall, we don't have Derek on the webinar.
Oh, he's not?
No.
I see Brian Borgatello.
I'm sorry?
Brian Borgatello.
Oh, Brian, yep, even better.
He would be able to. Okay, Brian, you're self-muted. Did you want to respond to the question on the activities that will occur on the site and where the pumping occurs and the cleaning of the?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Currently, all that the cleaning of the portable restrooms is taking place across the street from this proposed site in a facility where we handle that. There's a covered structure where we pump that and discharge it into the legally permitted into the city sewer system. And that's will be absolutely no pumping of any waste on this site or storage of any waste.
Okay, and then in terms, what Mr. Kuykendall said was that this would represent a new use, but relocating existing operations here or the storage. Is there going to be any backfilling of that space then in those old areas? You know, like the domino effect?
No, it's strictly spreading out the parking operations. We don't have any currently serve from Buellton to then a corporate Carpinteria area with all solid waste services. So there is no additional growth for Marburg in any service areas. There's no additional trucks or employees It's strictly spreading these trucks out. We do plan on increasing some of our diesel fleet to additional CNG trucks, and that is our CNG filling station. So it's mainly just spreading things out a little bit more, so mirrors are not touching on trucks when they're currently parking, and make it a safer operation overall for us and traffic flow inside the yard.
Okay, great. Thank you. I see Michelle.
Ms. Riordan.
Huh?
Ms. Riordan, this is Pablo Romero, if I may. I was the one who made the comment about the heavy traffic, but this was in reference to the inside of the building, as potentially forklifts or other power industrial vehicles might be moving around whatever it's stored in there. So that's when I made the reference to a heavy traffic, but that's within the building and that's why I was explaining why the CMU base was proposed.
Okay. All right. I see Ms. Bedard here from Associate Transportation Planner. I don't know, Michelle, if you wanted to add any more comments or not. Okay, I assume no. All right, so then the question regarding lighting, street lighting in the area. That might be for the civil engineer. Is it proposed? I know there's public improvements in terms of the sidewalks and that, but there's Michelle. Michelle might help too with the lighting. In regards to the queuing of trucks on the street, Michelle, did you want to? Let me see. Am I moving? Okay, there. Now you're self-muted, Michelle. There we go.
Let me just get my bearings here. Yeah. So as part of the project review, transportation and planning staff reviewed the project and found the project to would not cause any impact to the expansion of the Marburg use at this site does not cause any trip generation issues and no anticipated traffic issues for this project.
Okay, so no like a queuing issue or impact the circulation system on the streets. Transportation staff was.
Yeah, in fact, I heard one member mention the reduction of driveways, and that's actually the reconfigured driveways and the reduction of the 2 driveways to 1 is actually in standards compliant with the traffic engineering direction.
Okay, great, thank you. Then in regards to street lighting, if anyone on the applicant team wants to provide comments or input on that.
Mike?
Well, we do have street lighting proposed both within the site and off-site.
Can you point those out on this, is this the good plan to be on so you can show where they are?
I think. If you can see, there's one up by the corner of Quinientos and Quarantina. And then there's one by the entry, I believe. Oh, that's an existing streetlight. Oh, those are existing off-site. Do you see those?
Yeah, so you're not proposing any new ones or just existing ones?
Yeah, just the existing off-site, I believe.
Ms. Reardon, this is Kelly Brodison.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
During the development review application process, I conferred with Michael Clunin in our Public Works Department, and the project site is currently compliant with city street standards for street lighting. However, there is room that there's a total of the room for 3 commercial street lights poles can be added to this site based on standard details of 100 feet spacing between lights. So there is the potential to add 1 on 500 and 2 on Quarantina. But they did not, the Public Works did not require that during the application review.
Okay, great, thank you. Right, and then I have some questions regarding the site plan. I guess this is the site plan. There's one of the main one, I don't know if the Architecture Board of Review addressed it or not, and I know this is what the applicant team came up with, but in regards to the location of the building, why was it chosen in this area to be located here versus more up to the corner of 500 and Quarantina Street to be, provide some presence to that corner versus where it is? If Mr. Kuykendall or Mr. Romero, when you want to respond to that?
Pablo, my understanding is this was the location as part of where we wanted it located. The old building was over there in the corner. Go ahead, Pablo.
Sorry. Yes, and also the fact that we wanted to have a more continuous staging area. And that was also discussed, as part of the reason why we were putting it there. We did evaluate the corner, and during the ABR it was evaluated, but still this was the best location for the internal operation.
Okay, and in regards to the parking area, Michelle's probably still here. The site plans indicate that the accessible space is van accessible. And I don't know if that's a requirement or not, if it is required to be van accessible. But my comment is, if it is a van accessible, isn't the loading space on the wrong side? Isn't it typically on the passenger side?
And that's correct. Typically, you would have it on the passenger side. However, we are providing the accessible aisle to be van accessible, so that an operation, if needed, somebody could back up and still have the unloading zone to the right.
And that meets the code requirements for the parking? Michelle, is that you, or would that be built?
That's going to be built, I think.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if that's going to be changed, because one of the concerns of the neighbors, of public comment, is parking and providing adequate parking. And our zoning ordinance is such that it looks at what the proposed use is, and it doesn't require mitigation for existing impacted areas. It just makes sure you provide adequate parking for what you're proposing. And in addition, the coastal policies require that the parking for the building be provided off-street. So in regards to parking requirements based on the proposed use in the site, this particular site requires 6 spaces, and there's not a requirement for parking for outdoor storage areas, which the porta potties, and then the truck parking, that's parking for that. There's not a parking requirement for those. So in terms of meeting the zoning ordinance requirements for the proposal, it does meet that. However, I would like you guys to explain a little more about the parking, because when I drive in the area, I look at the existing Marburg facilities, and there are porta potties all over the site, and it takes up a bunch of the area. So what kind of measures are going to be taken here to ensure that those parking spaces remain available, and specifically in parking space number 6? It's not noted on this plan, but on another site plan, number 6 is the one that's all by itself in front of, parallel to the building. That seems, right there, thank you. Concern of whether that would remain long-term, but if, in terms of parking design, one of the applicant team wants to talk about that a little.
This is John, then I'll turn it over to Paula. The parking space will be preserved for parking. There will not be any storage of any equipment over there at all. It'll be basically, the storage will be in two areas, linear areas, one fronting Corentina Street, and then the one to the back of the property. And kind of how the plan showed it, kind of laid out in the conceptual elevation. But those will be always available for parking, not for storage of equipment as required.
Okay, and then what about bike parking? I noticed on the site plan, it shows short-term parking along the other side of the building, and then, but on the landscape plan, it shows bike parking in the striped area. So where's the bicycle?
Maybe we can, this is John, we can have Pablo show, but we have that, we have both short-term and long-term parking on this. So we should have I think a detail as well as we can show it on the plan. Long terms on the north. South.
Yeah, if we can switch to sheet 11 of 21. Yes, so we have the short-term bicycle parking, and that's right outside of the main entry to the building. That's detail 4. And then we have a long-term bike parking, which is on the back of the building, and that's detail 5. So we do have one each.
Okay, so on the landscape plan, that's just misplaced there. The landscape plan, I think, shows something in the hatched area. It looked to me like it was a denotation of the short-term parking. If you go to, it's the last page, Will.
We can see that. Double check.
Right, see right there? In the striped area by the tree, that's bike parking, right? Right there.
We did have it at some point over there, so it dragged down. But yes, definitely it's been relocated to the 2 locations we just showed you.
Okay. And then, yeah, okay. And the other, can you explain drainage? Okay, so the main policies that apply to this project is the visual resources, hazards related to flooding, and then hazardous waste, and then also sea level rise. Recently, the City Council adopted our sea level rise adaptation plan. And that was just in February, and there still needs to be implementation and coastal plan amendments to implement some of the actionable measures in there. And our current LCP discusses taking sea level rise into account. And I'm assuming the way the project was designed was to meet the flood requirements. Is that correct? Is there anything proposed regarding adaptation and measures that might be needed over the life of the structure?
This is John. My understanding is that once we got the BFE, then we realized we had to raise the floor of the building. I think about a foot, Mike.
Yeah.
And so we did that. And I believe that we comply with the applicable policies. I'm not sure unless Pablo or Mike have anything specific to the sea level that you're mentioning, but I do know we're compliant with the more recent city's flood zone update.
The one that, the SWIMP that was just recently adopted, the measures? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, that's probably good enough. Kelly, Ms. Preston, I don't know if you have any more to add on that?
Ms. Reardon, I know that the project was reviewed by our floodplain expert, Chris Short, during the application review, and also he will review it again as it proceeds through the building department. And he will verify that the project complies with the base flood elevation.
All right. So then, so flooding, that's okay. Hazardous waste was explained. Now visual resources, a lot of comments from the public was regarding, blight in the area and this use and how it's in the waterfront area and that this type of use shouldn't occur. The thing is that the zoning ordinance as well as our coastal plan identifies this as being an industrial area. So it is allowed use for this area. I agree it doesn't necessarily make sense because the coastal zone is such a high demand area in terms of visitors and tourists in that. I can agree with you on that. But this area has had a long history of being industrial use. So in regards to the proposed use, that is, it is appropriate. But so given that though, there are a lot of policies in our coastal plan regarding visual resources and improving blight or not adding to it. And when you look at the scenic resources, a figure in our coastal plan, I think staff has a slide on it. It identifies the different visual resources in the city. And Will, if you could go to the other one, scenic resource map here. This is from our recently adopted land use element, and it shows different kinds of view, and it identifies them as being positive or negative or neutral or whether they need improvements. And if you zoom in on the project area, you can see it's in an area that has positive visual resources. So in terms of the site and the use, I'm glad to hear that ABR is focusing on it too. It should represent as much as it can an improvement to the area. And in regards to the fencing, screening, and the architecture, the applicant team's trying to do that. But in terms of landscaping, I know there's a rub between the proposed use of the site versus the typical landscaping and breaking up pavement and providing. I know you can't do impervious; that would not work with your trucks and that. But trying to increase the visual resources in the area. And, you can see in the red part, I think that's part of Marburg's existing facility on the corner. And I don't know that that's why this area is red here, but it was a study and analysis that was done. So in regards to landscaping, you said, it was stated that the ABR requested a tree be put in the striped areas. Is there any other space like on the perimeter of the site plan, like where down at the bottom where the existing trees were removed? Areas where you could provide some height or some more landscaping. In regards to your visuals that you show from the freeway, I'm not sure what trees you're showing. They appear to be existing, but I don't know that they really are. That blocks the Cantos Street frontage. But I don't know if the landscape architect, if you wanted to discuss a little more, or even the project team. I realize we're talking about big trash trucks and maneuverability and all that, but we have to balance it with these visual resource policies. And the building, in regards to the architecture, I'll leave that up to the design board. They're they're charged with the architecture of that, but just in regards to additional landscaping if possible or appropriate.
I can talk a little bit, but then I think John will probably want to add to it. But typically, in having done a number of facilities like one of these and postal service and USPS kind of delivery services, you know, from a landscape perspective, yes, I love adding more trees. That's my job, it's my career, it's my passion. But in a trucking facility, they end up being the little pinball pins in the middle of a pinball game, and they get installed at first, and then sometimes they get a limb lopped off because a truck drives by. So I think I will look back to the team to say, where can we put additional trees if we get required to, as far as functionality and you know, the driving and operability of the trucks. I'm game, but I think I'll pass it on to John at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Here, John Kuykendall here. So the reason there's no trees planted along the western property boundary is it's an operational issue as far as having enough room to not only equipment, maneuver of vehicles. And there's also, I believe, but there's a 2 to 3 or maybe 4 foot grade separation between the two parcels. So there's a little bit of conflict there, but to put so the reason we're not proposing any trees along the back area is we have a 0 line setback in the M1 zone that you mentioned. And so we needed that to maximize the maneuverability and to be able to get 2 staging areas that are going to be functional on the property. And then we do have, as it shows here, we have a pretty substantial pedestrian landscape improvement. Not only do we have the 6 foot sidewalk, the 4 foot parkway, we also have the 6 foot wall with, you can see it also has landscaping with little periodic notchouts for more substantial landscaping for screening. So it has vines along all of it, but it also has another extra foot or so in depth to provide additional screening of just the wall itself, but also just to give it a nice pedestrian feel around the whole property that's along the street frontage. The 6 foot gets a little bit above the street because this side, correct me wrong, I think the finished elevation will be a little above the sidewalk. Is that right? So it might have even a higher perception of screening ability. As far as the question from I think the visual sim from the freeway, the tree across the on the other property is the one that maybe you were referring to. But we are only going to be proposing the trees along the perimeter. We did add the one that you noticed that ABR wanted in the inside of the site near the building. So that was over there where you kind of noticed that parking lot right there. And then we did maximize the street trees as many as we could get within the recommended spacing.
Yeah, I'm talking about the visual. I don't have it in front of me. The visual from the freeway. No. Go up. How many plans are here? Keep going. Okay, one of these. Are you zoomed out?
The next slide.
There we go. Okay, so this, the 3, view from freeway. See those tall trees in front of the building? There's only 2 or something. What are those supposed to represent? I mean, that shows screening, but I'm not sure. When I look at the aerial on the one number 4 to the right, I don't see those trees.
Those are existing, but they are on the property across the street from.
Really, they're that big and. Okay.
Right now, there are existing street trees on the Quinientos street right now that we're going to remove and replace.
Okay.
Because that one area on to the right it shows it removed, but they're actually, I think there's 2, if not 3 there right now. But the reason we have to remove and replace, they're kind of in conflict with the driveway cut.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so there's really not any other place you can,
So as you can see in the aerial to the right, what I was talking about, the operation, we have the drive aisle that comes in that needs to be a certain width. And so that's why we're planting as much as we can around the perimeter and around the building itself to make sure that we still have operational, maneuvering without having conflicts.
well, I think the public improvements that you're doing with the sidewalk and the landscaping and that's going to be from the street level view. That's going to be a big improvement. And
It's going to be huge.
Yeah.
It's really going to enhance that area and provide, a nice pedestrian area along that, at least walkway and everything else along that area compared to what it has been in the past.
Yeah. Okay. And then in terms of the actual wall itself, the screening wall, the Architecture Board of Review looked at it. They were in agreement with it being solid versus like chain link or see-through.
They actually asked us not to provide a chain link fence, and that's we had originally proposed a chain link fence, but this was kind of a intermediate point, and they like the fact that, most importantly, that it's going to be landscaped, so you're not going to be looking at the prefab necessarily. You will look at it for the first few years while the vines cover the surface, but the intent is for it to be eventually mostly a green wall. And Chris, you can add to this.
And this is John, just to add to that, there's also, it provides some noise attenuation as well as visual screening, just by this, that's what they were also looking for.
Yeah, one of the benefits of this type of wall is that you don't get the continual foundation. In a continual foundation situation, it makes it a lot harder for plant material to have a base or a place to grow. This is kind of post foundation that bridges over it, and so you're allowed to get more plant material, plant soil growth.
Okay. I think those are all my questions. So then in the minutes, I think it talked about a 6 foot versus an 8, sorry, the Architectural Board of Review minutes. And in your presentation today, you were saying it's going to be just 6 feet, or is it going to vary 6 feet, 8 feet? One of the questions that I have is regarding the height of the fence versus the height of the porta potty and how much is be visible over the top of the fence. I know the one across the street on Yentos there, you can see them, they're pretty close. And so in terms of just screening, what is the, or is that still up for discussion with the ABR regarding the height?
This is John. My understanding is that we have agreement on the height with the screening, with the landscaping around the fence, as well as the street trees, to provide visual relief of the operation as those plantings mature. I believe, Mike, does it go up just a little bit so it gives a higher perspective? I thought it did, as far as the location of the wall versus the sidewalk.
Yeah, you're correct. It's light, but yes, the grade jumps up a bit to the site.
So it may, I think it has even the effect of an 8 foot or close to it, but it's a 6 foot wall. So that's where we came to an agreement.
Okay. I'm just looking through to make sure all my questions, I asked all my questions. but yeah, those are all my questions. In regards to the actual project, or comments on the deliberations on the project. Like I said in my questions or in response to the public comment, I understand the discussion on the appropriateness of industrial uses near the coastal or the ocean, the waterfront, and you know, just the perceived conflict between attracting visitors and having an area be real nice. But this is allowed by zoning and by our coastal plan. It envisions this area to have industrial type uses. And so therefore, in regards to the use of the site, it is consistent with our visions for this area. And like I said, then the next step is to look at the individual policies relating to visual quality, hazardous materials, stormwater, sea level rise, in regards to flooding and sea level rise. The project as proposed is consistent with our existing requirements, and the sea level rise, although adaptation plan, although it's been adopted by City Council, it still needs to be implemented. So, but at this time, the project is consistent with that. In regards to hazardous materials, you know, there are known contaminants potentially here on the site. They are going to be required to be cleaned up before the building permit is issued, and the use would not contribute to additional hazardous materials. And then in regards to the concerns with water quality and potential spillage, there is the water treatment system, or the infiltration system underneath the concrete, so you're going to catch the runoff as required, and there won't be any storage of human waste or waste materials on this site. In regards to visual resources, I like how the project is moving in regards to the public improvements, in regards to the sidewalks. I know in the staff report, it talks about this project was reviewed against our pedestrian master plan, and it's incorporating elements from that plan into the design. I think somebody's not muted. Dawn, I'm going to mute you because I'm getting feedback. I don't know if other people are getting feedback. So in regards to the public street improvements with the sidewalks and the curb cuts and that, the project is implementing that plan. So it's increasing or improving the pedestrian experience in that area. In regards to lighting, the Public Works Department has looked at that issue, and they are not requiring additional lighting, and in terms of street lighting, and I'm not sure this project trips a threshold in regards to a nexus to require more lighting. So I'll leave it up to what the Public Works staff decided. I appreciate the additional tree within the project site, and I just, you know, really wish there was more ways to, I don't know, break up the expense of pavement, but I know that is not, it's inconsistent with the project objectives. But if any way, any other like volume, you know, height, not just, you know, planters and that, but something for the streetscape, if there's some way that some additional trees or a tree can be put on the site, that would be, I would appreciate that. However, I will leave that up to the Architectural Board of Review and further discussions, because I think in regards to the coastal permit, that although I believe that would enhance the ability to make the findings. I don't think it's something that would make it or not enable me to make those findings. So in regards to the conditions of approval, staff has proposed a number of draft conditions of approval, which were contained as Exhibit A attached to the staff report. And I'm sure the applicant team has had time to review those conditions of approval, and you understand them and agree to them. I saw you shake your head, John. So yes, I think I muted you because yeah. So yeah, so I see you. You shook your head. Yes. Here we go.
Yes, we reviewed them and we find them acceptable.
The one condition that I will add to the project is in regards to the screening from the street. With the fence or wall that I'm going to leave it up to the ABR whether it's how you propose or if they want it stuccoed or what, but that I will put a condition that that it not be chain link because I want it to provide adequate screening so that you can't see through it. And then also in terms of just the look of the neighborhood and having it be more of a solid type wall with maybe some, I know the gates are wrought iron, for some peek through or see through, but that it not be that the perimeter wall not be the perimeter wall along the frontage not be chain link. I want to specify that so that in the interior property lines, this is not applicable to that. It's just the ones along the public street frontage. So with that, I can make the findings as outlined in the staff report. The coastal development commit and approve your project subject to the conditions of approval in that report and after revising them with the additional condition on the wall. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And for the people that are watching, that are attending this hearing right now, the slide on the screen is explains how to appeal it. And it says contact planning staff. Given the COVID and the fact that we are closed, you can also call Ms. Broadison. Her contact information is on the agenda in regards to her extension and email, but that does need to be received within 10 days of today's date. Okay, so you have a project. And with that, that was the last item on the agenda. So I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.